Everyone. So last class we were talking about conversions, going from bigger units to smaller units where we would use a multiplication operation, and then smaller to bigger units we would use division. We also talked about complex fractions. For example, something like this. One of the methods that we would be using was that to keep the numerator as it is, and then the denominator would be multiplied rather than divided by the reciprocal of it. So we would be getting something like that. That would end up, that would be 2/3 in the end. Or we could do something else. We could do this multiplied by that in the numerator, and then this multiplied by that in the denominator, which would definitely give us the same result, because, well, otherwise probably there was a mistake in either of these guys. Okay, so that's about the conversion, and that's about complex fractions. So now let's go ahead. This is very important when we go ahead with speed, velocity, acceleration, things like that later in our course. And that is the fact that the basic conversion of things like kilometers an hour to meters per second or miles per hour converted to meters per second. I want to get my hands dirty on these type of conversions where we have some unit in the numerator and some unit in the denominator. I want to see how I would do this. So let's say a car is moving with 60 kilometers an hour. So to give you an idea of how fast 60 kilometers an hour looks like, it's kind of like the car is moving by 40 miles an hour. So it's sort of like that. So this is how fast it goes. Now I want to see how many meters per second the car is basically moving. In order to do this conversion, we have kilometer in the numerator, so it's up there compared to meters. So in order for me to go from kilometers to meters, now I need to multiply. So this and I already told you in class that whenever you have kilo, it means conversion factor is 1,000. So 60 kilometers per hour. Now I want to see how many meters per second that is. So for kilometers to meters, the conversion factor is 1,000. And then for the denominator, I have hour compared to seconds. So I know seconds are little smaller units and hours are bigger units. I know that in 1 hour, there are 3,600 seconds, okay? So so basically 1 hour is a bigger chunk, and in every single 1 hour, there are like 3,600 little seconds, okay? So hour, seconds, again, multiplication, but this time the conversion factor is 3,600. And that's that. So we have 60 times 1,000 over 3,600. So the zeros cancel out and you can just punch it into your calculator. I rather do things in my head and by hand because I'm not really a calculator, not a calculator person, to be honest. So I divide this by a 6. I divide this by a 6. That gives me 100 over 6. And that gives me 50 over 3 meters per second. So it's roughly around maybe like 16 meters per second, 17 meters per second, something around that number. So if you ever go by 60 kilometers an hour, which is roughly about 40 miles an hour, then in every single second, you are driving 17 meters, okay? So this is how you convert kilometers an hour to meters per second. So now let's move on and let's do this conversion in another way. Like I said, in whichever way, as long as you do it correctly, it's totally fine. And if you're doing it correctly, then you should be getting the same result. But let's just do it another way. Some people are more comfortable doing it this way. So say I have 60 kilometers an hour. I want to see how many meters per second I end up with. Now, some people do this. Some people go 60 kilometers an hour, then in 1 kilometer, there is 1,000 meters, so that the kilometers cancel out. See, yeah? So 100 meters, and then in order for them to take care of the hours, here, they say in 1 hour, there is 3,600 seconds, so that the hours cancel out, see? So that they end up in the end, eventually, with meters per second. So let's just do the rest. So that gives them the meters, this gives them the seconds, and see, exact same ratio I end up here, which gives me roughly 17 meters per second. So either way, it's totally sane, totally fine. So you either do this, where basically you see that the kilometer cancels out and the hour cancels out, and then you end up with meters per second, or if you like, which I like this one way better because it gives me a better understanding of this whole thing, is that I convert kilometers separately to meters, doing my stairs, and then I convert hours to seconds, again, just the same like with the series method separately, and I have to end up with the same results, okay? As long as you get the same result, you're good to go. So either way, make sure which one is more comfortable for you. Get your hands dirty on it, do as many problems as you can, and just make sure you get it. Thank you so much. Next, I'll talk about speed, velocity, and we move on with the course. Bye.